Hey, this week's video is about asking the right questions. If you just ask the first question that comes to your mind in any situation, then generally it turns out to be some sort of fiasco. You've got to think before you talk. It's super important, and I've had to learn that. I think coming from a positive perspective is always better than coming from a negative. And I say that to you, meaning the questions you ask other people, the questions you ask yourself, the questions you ask God. It isn't about how come this went wrong and why didn't you do that, and those kind of things, because all that does is breed animosity and frustration, and that person or God or whatever is already saying is trying to find a way to counteract what went wrong. So that isn't going to help. So you have to begin to ask questions from a positive perspective. Instead of saying, God, how come this and how come that? You have to say, Lord, what should I do to make this situation better? And keep asking that until you get a response. And don't just do the next thing that comes to your mind. Wait for the response. And as you get the response, and as you wait for the response, your attitude and your mindset in response to the response you got from God will be much better. I got this subject because I just went and spoke at Cross City Correctional. And I venture to say it was the best speaking engagement I've ever done. And the reason is because they prepared for me. They were ready. A guy wrote me from JPay, said, I read your book. It changed my life. I'm now the head of the Christian dorm, and I was wondering if you would come here and speak. Of course, I don't correspond with inmates, and so I wrote him back, and I said, I absolutely will, but I don't correspond with inmates, I'll get in touch with your chaplain. But I went. I went because I knew that these people wanted to hear what I had to say. And so that to me was God saying, look, this is somewhere that I want you to go. And so I responded to that and I went. But they were prepared. They had a big banner. They had a program. In the program it said they're going to do this. They're going to have the choir sing. They're going to have a skit. And then they're going to have me at a round table. And there's going to be an inmate. And there's going to be a volunteer. And there's going to be me. And they're going to interview me. And they're going to ask me questions about things that I wrote in my book. For example, they asked me about praise and worship. They said, you were in jail once and you talked about praise and worship and how that took you to another place. And we're just wondering if you still find that to be true for you or if anything about that's changed. And so I was able to talk to them about praise and worship or about several other subjects, but they were things they were interested in. These weren't brand new Christians that needed to know that God loved them anyway. These were people that were a little more advanced in their relationship, and they had different questions. And they took the time to think about it and ask the questions, and so they got the answers that they were looking for. And I just think it's a great lesson. It's a great habit to get into. Before you question somebody about something, think how this is going to bring life to them. Listen, it brought life to me to think these people read my book and they have questions about it. That was important. That made me feel valuable and excited and gave me new topics to cover. That's important. It's important to keep me motivated in my ministry. That's your job. And my job is to keep you motivated in your ministry or in your lifestyle or whatever it is that we're dealing with. The point is, if you think before you speak, if you ask the right questions, it brings life to everyone. It brings life to the person who's getting the response. It brings life to you because the response you gave was helpful. Everything about what you ask is important. So when you're talking to God this week or other people this week, think. Think before you speak. Say, Lord, where do I need to make adjustments? What is it about me that needs to change? Don't always ask don't always say what you think needs to be changed, or ask why this didn't go that way or why that. You know what? We don't even have the right to ask why. It's how. How can I make this different? How do you want to make this different? How can I get involved in what you're doing? So think about this week before you speak, because we're really good at blah, 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 instead of thinking. Okay? I hope you guys have a great week. It's important that we have a reason to wake up every day. It's amazing. I've experienced it, and so can you. Take your feelings to Him. He's good. You can do it. It'll make a difference.